Hey guys, welcome to lesson 1. In this lesson, we are going to be covering some of the basic fundamentals of Google AdWords, and I'm going to make sure that everyone has a solid foundational understanding of what it is, and we're also going to talk about the difference between SEO and PPC, which is a really important concept for all PPC marketers to understand. So if you are a beginner, this is a great place to start. If you're not, even if you've used Google AdWords in the past, this is still a great review of all the basics for you. So let's go ahead and get started. So first I want to talk a little bit just about some of the generally used terms when we're talking about PPC and Google AdWords and SEM, and just talk about really what all of these things mean, just so that when you are out there talking to other people, talking to clients, whoever it is that you're talking to about these things, that you sound knowledgeable and you understand the difference between all these acronyms. So first of all, search engine marketing. What is it? Well, search engine marketing, commonly referred to as SEM, is the process of just basically gaining website traffic by purchasing ads on the search engines. So basically you're just connecting businesses with potential customers who are actively seeking the services that they provide. So just in a really simple summary, you bid for ad placement in a search engine sponsored links, or the ads there at the top of the search engine results page. And that's for keywords that are just related to your business. That's at a very basic level. And then you pay the search engine a small fee for each click. So we'll talk more about the bidding process and exactly how all of that works later in this module, but that's really it in a nutshell. In search engine marketing, SEM, it used to be kind of this umbrella term that encompassed both SEO and paid search. But over time, like really anymore, if you hear somebody say SEM, it typically just refers to the paid search side of it. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of that as well, so you weren't confused. And of course, Google AdWords is by most measures the most popular paid search platform used by search marketers by far, and then of course followed by Bing ads, which serves a large portion of the ads on Yahoo. But we aren't going to be covering Bing ads in this course, but I do want you to know that it is out there. It is another paid search option, and a lot of people use it. We use it quite a bit as well. It's just not near dominant. It's not near as dominant as Google ads. They just don't have near the market share or volume that Google does. But a lot of times when you hear the term PPC, or if you hear of someone who is a PPC specialist, most of the time they are referring to a platform like Google AdWords or Bing ads, but more loosely, really, since the term PPC actually means pay per click, it can be used to refer to other ad platforms like Facebook ads, Pinterest ads, or just any other ad type where you're paying for clicks. So I just wanted to clear up some of that confusion, if there was any just commonly misconceived things that I hear every now and again about people using the terms incorrectly. So I just want to make sure you're using the terms correctly and you understand what those are when you hear them. All right, so I also wanted to give you guys just a broad overview here of all the different things that you can do within Google AdWords. But first, of course, is search. And for anybody who has heard of Google Ads and is at least somewhat familiar with it, this is probably the part that most people are the most familiar with, is the search side of Google Ads. And of course, it is the most dominantly used, or the most commonly used part of Google Ads or Google AdWords. But there are also all these other amazing types of campaigns and things that you can do. So the display network is another part of Google AdWords where you can run the large visual types of display ads. You can run rich media ads. You can run all kinds of ads, animated ads, HTML5 through the display network. So basically any advertisers out there, any websites out there that choose to participate in the display network will display these ads that you can go and place through the AdWords platform. And it has some really amazing targeting capabilities. You can target very specific websites, place your ads directly on a specific website. You can target based on audience and things like that. So again, we're going to spend a whole week just learning about Google Display. Another type of campaign that you can run is their video ads through YouTube. So those are really awesome. You can do the pre-roll ads that you see, when you are watching a video on YouTube and that ad pops up in the beginning, and a lot of times you skip it. Those can be very effective. You can also run ads for people who are searching on YouTube, which is a really powerful way to run video ads that a lot of people aren't aware of or not taking advantage of. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that and all the different things you can do there with video. Another platform that we're going to talk about is the shopping ads and how to set up product feeds. I'm going to go through the Merchant Center, and I'm going to go through all that good technical stuff that you can do through the shopping and e-commerce side of Google AdWords. So the shopping ads are really, really cool, and they're starting to really become more and more prevalent in all of the search engine results. So that's a big one that you want to pay attention to if you are, e-commerce or you have anything to sell online. And then finally, there are Gmail ads, which is not as well known, not as commonly used, but it is a really fun type of ad that you can run. Literally shows up as it looks exactly like an email, just shows up right there in your Gmail inbox. So you can obviously do a lot of cool stuff on the creative side with, you can literally design this full HTML email. So that's really awesome. You can do a lot of cool stuff with that. So that is AdWords in a nutshell there of all the different types of campaigns that you can run. And like I said, we are going to be digging into each one. I'm going to show you how to set everything up from scratch. So we will be diving into those in later lessons. But right now, I want to talk about the difference between SEO and PPC. This is something that I get asked about all the time, and so for anybody who wants to learn about AdWords, you have to fully understand the big picture with search before you can do a good job at either one side, at SEO or PPC. So first of all, for those of you that aren't really familiar with SEO, or organic search is also another way to describe that, but organic search is really based on these unpaid natural rankings that are determined by the search engine's algorithms, and it can be optimized with various SEO practices. I'm sure you guys have heard about this. If you're in the marketing world at all, I'm sure you know at least somewhat about how this works. But there's all kinds of things you can do to move up in the organic search engine rankings, but one thing that you cannot do is buy your way to the top. The only way to do that is with these paid ads that you see at the top, and those are placed there through Google AdWords. So like I said, in contrast to organic SEO, paid search or Google AdWords allows you to pay a fee to have your website displayed on the top of the search engine results page like you see here. So when someone types in a really specific keyword or phrase to the search engine, then the search engine results page displays your ad that you created, and when people click on it, that's actually when you pay. You don't actually have to pay just to be there or be seen, but you pay whenever someone clicks and goes to your website. So in other words, you just basically pay to rank. So, organic and paid listings both appear there, but they're in different locations. And, more and more so over time, I've noticed that the ad placements that are becoming more and more pronounced. So now, there's about 4 ads or so that show up most of the time when you search for something. So you are now having to scroll down below the fold to even get to the organic search ranking. So it's just becoming more and more prevalent. It's becoming harder to ignore these search ads. So it's a good time to get in there and learn how to use Google AdWords. Also, another thing I'll point out about the search engine results pages is that about 70%, really it's a little bit over 70% of people, they do click on the organic search results. Like I said, I think this may be changing now that it's becoming so prominent there at the top of the pages. I think this might be, changing just a bit, but generally you'll see 70% click on organic and 30% will click on these paid ads at the top. And so I get a lot of people that are like, Caitlin, why should we even bother with paid search, with these Google ads? Why should I pay for this traffic when I could get it for free? And, in my opinion, it's not really as simple as just choosing one or the other. The best search marketers understand that there is a need for a really well thought out, holistic strategy that encompasses both paid search and SEO. And they understand how the two methods really complement each other. So I don't really think that there's just like a one size fits all, or you should just focus all on SEO or focus all on Google ads. They just have to supplement each other. So that's why you have to understand both and how they work. So for example, paid search is a really great option if you are not ranking well in the search engines with organic search alone. There are literally hundreds of terms, like search terms, keywords, that you probably need to be ranking for in order to be found by the right audience. But chances are, it's very likely that at the current moment, you don't have high organic rankings. You're not on the first page or in those top spots for all of those keywords and phrases that you want to be showing up for. SEO takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time and investment, and you need to be working with an SEO expert who knows what they are doing. So for those of us who don't necessarily always want to, wait around, if you're a business owner who doesn't want to wait for your SEO to start working, which could be months, could be years before you start achieving top rankings for certain keywords, if ever. Some spaces are so competitive, it's very difficult to get to the top spot for particular keywords. So in that case, we use Google ads. So it really comes in handy. And like I said, you can complement that strategy and use it for those terms where you're not able to get those high rankings. So just to kind of recap here, SEO, it can take a long time to see results. Some people may never see the front page, even if they are working at it continuously. It's just become very competitive over time. And then again, it could be another long wait if there are changes, or if you make changes on your site, and algorithm changes that Google releases can also completely ruin your results overnight. Unfortunately, I've known some people that have had some really hard hits when an algorithm change comes out, and something that they were doing, so one of the SEO practices that they were using or something just really didn't kind of go over well with Google, and so Google makes a change, and overnight their traffic just tanks. It just falls off a cliff, and it's really hurt their business. I've known people that have gone completely out of business because of that. So that is a risk. That's something to consider if you're relying on just SEO alone, and it is a lot of work. You have to continuously work at your SEO. And then on the PPC side, on the paid side with Google AdWords, one of the things that I really like about it is that there's immediate results. So, I'm one of those that I guess I'm a little bit impatient, and I love, just being able to launch a campaign today and then start seeing results tomorrow. I love that, and a lot of businesses are there with me on that. They really like the immediacy. You can also test changes really fast. So, you don't have to wait months or years to see what works and what doesn't. You can really have that fast feedback loop, those A/B tests going, and you can really test changes really quickly and fail fast, which is really important when you're trying to scale. In this case with paid ads, the algorithm changes do not have any effect whatsoever on your ads. So even if there's a huge change in organic, your ads will just remain unchanged. And another thing about Google Ads that's really neat is that there's a lot of work involved at the beginning, but over time, if you do everything right, if you follow this course and you learn how to really do the intense hard work up front with optimization and all of that, that over time you don't have to work as hard as you did in the beginning with your Google AdWords campaigns. Now you always will have to keep up with them. You'll always have to optimize. You always have to work at it, but it's not, you don't have to keep up with the same level of work. So over time, it does get a little bit easier. And then another thing is the trackability, the analytics, the ROI tracking that you can do with Google AdWords is so granular, and it's really exciting, and I love it. So I'm going to spend a whole week talking with you guys about that, showing you how to set up tracking, showing you how to go in and analyze all the data and the numbers that you get. So it's really fascinating how well you can track everything. So those are just a lot of benefits and pros to get Google Ads. This is a Google Ads course, so of course I'm really excited about it and I love it. I work in it every day, but again, I don't want it to seem like SEO is not important. Because it certainly is, and I encourage you to work with an SEO expert. Actually, Unicorn IQ is going to be coming out with an SEO course very soon, so stay tuned for that because it is a huge part of the game as well, and will really help you if you can get a good handle on both. Then you can just totally dominate the search engines. All right, so enough about that. Just to kind of recap, Google AdWords is just an amazing lead generator. It is the #1 intent-based marketing platform in the world. There is nothing that rivals it when it comes to intent-based marketing, but that is the key there. The key difference between this platform and other types of platforms that you hear about all the time, or maybe you're currently using like Facebook ads, Pinterest ads, or just different advertising platforms, the biggest difference is that Google is intent-based. So obviously, when someone is out there searching, you know that they are in the market or they're interested in what you have to offer. And so because of that, you get really amazing quality leads and you get high conversion rates, typically higher than what you'll see on platforms where the style is a little bit more interruptive, like where you're just in the news feed on Facebook and scrolling through and come across an ad while you're just hanging out, and maybe you're at the salon getting hair done and you're just browsing around, playing around on Facebook. That's more of an interruptive style advertising where the person that you're reaching isn't necessarily in the market or interested in what you're offering. So it's more of a top of the funnel type of game. So Google paid search is definitely more for the bottom of the funnel, and that's why you see really high conversion rates on it. So that's a really exciting reason to use Google paid search. And also one more thing that I'll mention here before we move on to lesson 2 is that if you find something that is working on Google AdWords, it's relatively easy to scale. If there is inventory available, so if the search volume is there, that can be a big if because it's not always there, but there's really no difference or should be little difference in the results that you can get with a $5,000 budget and what you can get with a $20,000 budget. And what I mean by that is not that you're going to get the same results, obviously, from both budgets, but proportionately you can see the same CPA, like the same cost per conversion or cost per acquisition on a $5,000 budget as you do with a $20,000 budget. And that's a big difference as well between some of the other platforms like Facebook ads. I don't know if any of you guys have, experimented or run or manage Facebook ad campaigns, but one thing you might have found is, if you're watching your ads and you're split testing, you're testing all kinds of different things and you find a winner, you find an ad that's converting really well and it's really profitable for you. It's actually, you can't just turn the budget up. You can't just go from a $5,000 budget to like a $20,000 or $30,000 budget overnight. There's all these rules that you have to follow. Hey guys, welcome to lesson 3. In this lesson, we are going to deep dive into keywords. Obviously, they are the foundation of Google AdWords and how everything works. So it's very, very important for you guys to understand all the different match types and how keywords actually trigger the advertisements that you're going to create. So let's dig right in here and start talking about all of these different match types. So first of all, we have the most commonly used match type. It's called broad match, and I say it is the most commonly used, but it's actually the one that I want you guys to stay completely away from. Most AdWords newbies, they get into AdWords and they start setting up a campaign, and they just start typing in like the keywords that come to mind. Like they might type in this example, if your business was if you're a cosmetic surgeon, you would type in the word cosmetic surgeon. Very naturally, that you would think you would want to come up for that. So you type that in and you create your ads and off you go. Well, you may not realize that what you're doing is creating what's called a broad match term that it's going to show for all kinds of terms that you may not want to show for. So Google will actually very broadly match the term to other things like the word surgeon. It might think that any type of surgeon is fine, and it's going to show it's going to show when somebody types in just the word surgeon or any other type of surgeon. It might be somebody looking for a heart surgeon, and you definitely don't do anything like that. So you can see where this could be problematic. Another example is somebody could type in the word cosmetic consultant, and again, that's not really what you're going for. You don't want to be shown for that type of keyword. And another example there is cosmetologist, and again, a cosmetic surgeon doesn't want to be showing up when someone's looking for a cosmetologist. It's not going to have a very high performance on that ad campaign. So broad match, as you can see, it very, very loosely matches against whatever terms you put in there. Honestly, you're going to get all kinds of junk. This is the best way to waste literally all of your money. So please do not do this. Don't use broad match. Now I will say there are some advanced strategies that can take advantage of broad match, but we are not going to be getting into those advanced strategies until some later modules. So for anybody that's a beginner and you're not very advanced or experienced with using AdWords, please do not use broad match, especially when you're using a very limited budget. It is not a good use of that budget. So that is the broad match type. The next type is what's called a broad match modifier. Now this one I like a lot better, and these can be really, really helpful when you're trying to discover new long tail keywords that are going to hopefully be really profitable for you. So let me just show you here some of these terms. They can still be loosely related, but you're basically telling Google in this case with your little modifier, which is the plus sign that you see in front of those two words, cosmetic and surgeon, but it's telling it to, you basically have to include that exact word. So, it's a little bit different than broad match. It's instead of saying, okay, you can just choose some loosely related terms, you're saying it has to have the word cosmetic and it has to have the word surgeon. So in this particular case, if you typed in just the word surgeon, or you typed in, cosmetic consultant, for surgeon, it didn't contain the word cosmetic, so it didn't show for that. With cosmetic consultant, consultant isn't, included in there, so it's not going to show for that. And cosmetologist, it's not going to show for that. It's not going to trigger the ads if someone types that in because it doesn't contain the word, again, cosmetic and surgeon. It has to contain both of those exact words. Now, it will show up if you typed in words around those words. So if it was like best cosmetic surgeon, it would show for someone who is typing in best cosmetic surgeon. So it's it's a really good thing, because that's the type of phrase you would want to discover and definitely want to show for that. So we'll get into some reasons why later on you need to weed out some of the traffic that you're going to get with using broad match modifiers, but this is a really great solid strategy, is to use these broad match modifier keyword types. All right, next up we have phrase match. This is another really, really good one. It's obviously much more narrowed. So in this particular case, the phrase must include the phrase of words that you put inside the quotation marks. So basically just put quotes around the phrase of words that you want to show up exactly like that. So in this particular example with the cosmetic surgeon example, I want it to show up with cosmetic surgeon, and it has to be in that order. So before, with our broad match modifier, it could have shown up as surgeon cosmetic, not that really somebody would have done that, but you get the point. It didn't have to be in that order. It just had to contain those words. Now, with phrase match, it has to be in that order, and nothing can be between the words either. So with our broad match modifier, you could have had a word in between the words cosmetic and surgeon. It would have still triggered. With phrase match, it has to be exactly what's in between the quotes. So here you have the cosmetic nose surgeon. It's throwing the word nose in there in between cosmetic and surgeon, and it is not going to show your ad if this is your keyword that you're using, if someone types in the word cosmetic nose surgeon. So if you did want to show up for cosmetic nose surgeon, then the broad match modifier would have been a better choice, or create, a keyword that is cosmetic nose surgeon. So it would not trigger for that one. But if someone typed in cosmetic surgeon for my nose, then it would trigger your ad, because for my nose is coming after the phrase that you said has to be included. So it can include words around the quotation marks. Any words that are there, it's going to show for those. You just have to keep an eye on those through your search terms report, which I'll go over with you guys here in a later lesson. But that's a phrase match. Obviously, the more control, the more narrow, the more closely you're going to be able to control what your budget is spent on. So, this is going to bring you pretty good quality traffic. This will be really good quality traffic, and you won't have as much irrelevant traffic as you would with the broad match or broad match modifiers. All right, so then we get into exact match. And exact match is the narrowest match type. It gives you the most control over exactly what you're showing for and not showing for. And so in this case, it is just what it sounds like. It has to include exactly what you put there only. You cannot have any words before or after the phrase. And it will literally only show if someone actually types in only the words cosmetic surgeon. It doesn't matter what else you put around or before or between any of the words, it won't show up. So obviously this is going to restrict the potential volume, because you're saying, okay, I only want to show up for this, so it's not going to show you for anything that would be, close match. So it does restrict the volume down, and sometimes it's not a viable option because it restricts the volume so much. But if you're in a bigger, if you're targeting a bigger area, if there is, highly densely populated area, or you're targeting the whole United States or something like that, this can be a really amazing strategy, because you're getting the most control, and if there's a lot of volume, you'll be able to bring in all of those particular searches. So it is a really great strategy to use when you have a great keyword. But I will warn you here, sometimes these can be highly competitive and more expensive. So that's, a downfall of using exact match. Welcome back to lesson 5, where we are going to talk about how to write awesome ad copy and how to make your text ads really stand out. So let's jump in here and talk about some different best practices when it comes to the actual ad text that you set up when you create your ads. So first things first, you really want to understand first what stage your customer is in when they're seeing this ad. So it's really, really important concept to grasp before you ever start writing ads in the first place. Like, are they online looking for more information? Are they just researching? Are they ready to buy? And if you remember those motivators, those moments, those micro moments, remember we talked about that just a little bit at the beginning of this course, you want to know exactly where they are at and what they need at that point. And then you're going to write your ad copy accordingly. And then of course you're going to use those keywords to basically distinguish and separate out what you want people to do. So if they're in that buying stage, well, then obviously your calls to action should drive them into like a buy now type of page. If they're in the information stage and they're just trying to research and learn more, then you're going to use calls to action that match those motivations. You also want to try to pre-qualify your traffic with your ad text. So a lot of clients and businesses that we work with, they also will try to use the ad text to weed out people that they don't want. So, you might put like a starting price or something, or just anything that you can do to, make sure that the wrong people aren't getting to as well. So, if you go after really high-end types of clients, then you might want to try to qualify those clicks, because remember, you're paying for clicks. And so you don't want to waste money on people who are not the right target market. You don't want anybody and everybody clicking on your ad. You want the right person to be attracted to your ad. So just remember that. And remember, again, when you're planning things out, to try to sort your keywords by, phase, buying stage, customer journey, those types of things, so that you're hitting people at all different stages of the journey, and you're sending them to the right pages on your website, the right types of landing pages, and that your ad copy really mirrors what stage they're in their journey. So of course, some other things here are just making sure that the ad headline contains the actual keyword. So this is another reason that you need to tightly group all of your keywords into these separate ad groups, because it's going to be really hard to include the keyword in every ad headline if you got a whole bunch of different keywords, right? So make sure that the ad headline has the keyword or the phrase in the headline. Make sure you include the keyword in the copy, like the actual description somewhere as well. And then also you need to include the keyword in the display URL. So again, we're going to have this theme throughout this entire course of relevancy and matching up your keywords to the ad, to the display URL, to the landing page. So make sure it's included in all of those places. The thing that we just kind of talked about was making sure it's obvious that your solution is the one that they're looking for. And then give them a reason to click. Make sure you've got a really strong, clear call to action on there. Stay away from learn more. I would use more stuff like, free consultation or 20% off or buy now, something that's very, very specific and tells them what you're going to want them to do as soon as they click. So those are just some good baseline rules for writing ad copy. So let's talk about some fun tips that I have for you guys as you're writing your ad copy. So one tip that I have for you to share is that it's really good if you can include some kind of specific numbers or statistics or anything like that in your headlines and descriptions. This is like copywriting 101. When you pick up a magazine, anytime you pick up a newspaper, you guys know what kind of headlines really stick out and sell. This is one of those kind of baseline rules that if you have a very specific number, something just, like a statistic, it does tend to grab people's attention a little bit more. So in this example, obviously we have, very specific prices and rates, because that's usually what people are interested in. So that's going to really draw people in and grab their attention. Here's another example and another tip that I want to share is that if somebody is typing something in, you don't always necessarily have to, put exactly what they wrote in your ad headline, but you can actually just mirror what their objective is. So in this particular example, somebody's searching for they want to know how to sell their car. And so you're basically just flipping that around and saying, hey, we'll buy your car, and so that's a really great example of how to mirror the searcher's objective and really, really think about what it is that they are saying and wanting, instead of just, taking the keywords verbatim and putting them in the ad headline. And here's another example of the keyword relevancy and making sure you're using it in the ad appropriately. Make sure you don't forget to put it in the display URL. Now, one thing I want to point out here about display URLs is that these URLs do not have to be actual working URLs. They are just fake. They're just on display, and they're really helpful for, if you don't have a page or your landing page isn't actually, it doesn't actually contain the keyword, which is great if it does, but if it doesn't, you can add as many keywords as you need in the display URL section. And I'll show you exactly how to do that and where to do that when we go through a campaign setup. But I just want to make sure to share that tip with you as well. And this tip is a really fun one that a lot of people don't know that this is something you can even do within Google AdWords. But these countdown customizers are a really great addition to your account if you do anything like sales, if you have a limited time event, if you have, just like a big clearance event, or just anything where you need urgency, where you need to have anything that's date based. You can add this right into your ad. I'm actually going to record a separate video and do a walkthrough on how to set this up. So I will show you step by step exactly what to do, but I just wanted to throw this out there when you're writing your copy to keep this in mind, that this can really help increase conversion rate. It's really interesting to see those conversion rates really start to jump up towards the end of a sale as the urgency really increases and the countdown timer gets close to being close to being at 0. So like I said, I'll walk you through this in a later module, but that's a really fun one to use. And this is a big one right here, this keeping your ads hyper local. If you're able to, if you are a brick and mortar, if you service a specific confined geographic location, anything like that, please try to keep your ads hyper local, or just basically, in layman's terms, include the city name in the ad headline. I promise you they will perform better. This is a very proven tactic. So for example, here in this example, the user typed in Austin, Texas cosmetic surgeon. And the ad that's probably performing best here, because it does every time we've ever tested this, is the one that includes the word Austin along with the keyword in the headline. So I recommend always adding the city name along with the primary keyword in the headline, if at all possible, if you're a local business. Now, this obviously doesn't apply for e-commerce or online-only businesses, but it does work really well if you service anyone in a local brick and mortar. All right. Here's a really good ad example. I just want to share an example of something, like an ad that's good and an ad that's not so great. So this is a good ad example. This is for LASIK surgery. So that was the search term, is LASIK surgery. And here they use the keyword in the headline. They have a very clear call to action to get a free screening and find out if they're a candidate. And they're also making really good use of ad extensions, which I am going to be covering in detail with you guys in the next lesson. So I think it's just a really good, solid ad for a local business. Now here's an example of an ad that's not so great. So in this example, someone typed in Ford Focus brakes, and the ad that pops up is an ad for test driving a 2013 Mazda 3. So this really is not going to be the best use of that advertiser's ad dollars, because this person who's searching for Ford Focus brakes is not probably going to convert on their ad. They're obviously probably trying to order some brakes or brake parts or something like that online for their Ford, and they don't really seem to be in the market for a new car. So in this case, I just think it's a really bad use of their ad dollars. All right, and I wanted to also share this example with you. This is a really clever example. You can be very creative with this ad. Now, this is an example of a brand jacking campaign. So this is where the advertiser, in this case Samsung, is actually bidding on their competitor's keyword for the iPhone 6s. And they wrote some really clever ad copy to try to win people over. So the ad says, when they typed in iPhone 6s, it says awkwardly, you mean S6. So that's a Samsung phone. And I really like that angle. Now, typically these types of ads don't always convert at as high of a rate as someone who is naturally typing in like best smartphones, or they hadn't already decided on what phone they wanted. Maybe in this case it seems like that could be the case. So they don't typically convert as well, but it is a very aggressive strategy that can work well for some brands who are trying to go after a specific competitor. So I just thought that was really neat and wanted to share that with you. So those are my basic tips for writing good, winning ads. And I'm going to spend more time talking about this throughout the rest of the course. We're going to be talking about writing ads and ad copy and just different tips for different types of businesses. So this is not the only time we're going to cover this topic, but I just wanted to make sure I covered the foundation, the basics here. Hey guys, welcome to lesson 7. This one will be a pretty short one. We're just going to take a quick look at some of the key metrics that you need to watch and pay close attention to in your Google AdWords account to get a feel for how well or how poorly an account is performing. I also just really want you guys to be familiar with all the jargon and the terms that I'm going to be using throughout this entire course, so that you know exactly what I'm talking about when I use them. So the first one that I want to talk about is click-through rate. So anytime you see a report or anywhere where we just say the word CTR, you'll know that we're talking about click-through rate. And this is basically just the percentage of how many people click on your ad out of how many people see it. So this is a really, really important, just key metric at determining how well your ads are doing. So if your click-through rate is poor, you know that there's an issue with your ads. Either the ad is not lining up with the keyword, so the keyword isn't relevant to the ad that you've written, or your ad copy is not really resonating with the target audience. There's a number of different reasons why this metric might be, not very good, but you want to shoot for 2% is really where the industry average is across all industries. But so that's kind of a benchmark, but we like to shoot for getting quite a bit higher, like 3-4%, 5-6. We have some ads that are like 10% or higher click-through rate. So just make sure that you're very familiar and paying very close attention to this metric. And then we have CPC, which is cost per click. Obviously, this is important because you want to monitor the average amount that you're paying anytime that someone clicks on your ad, because this is going to, really factor into, your overall cost per conversion, your overall ad spend, and things like that. How many site visitors you're going to be able to get out of a certain daily budget. This is something you want to monitor really closely. So anytime you see CPC, that means cost per click. This one is conversion rate. Obviously, at the end of the day, this is kind of the big one, right? This is what we monitor. This is the percentage of clicks that it takes for a desired action on your landing page. So whatever it is that you're wanting them to do, that is your conversion. So the number of visitors that go to your page divided by the number of people that take that action is the conversion rate. So you want to be monitoring that. Most people are like in a 2 to 3% like conversion rate, depending on what it is. Obviously, it varies really widely. Obviously, if you're like giving away $100 free on your landing page, you're going to get a really high conversion rate. But most people we'll see anywhere from like 2, 3, 5%, 10% is an amazing conversion rate. You can see conversion rates up to around 20%, but just to give you some kind of ballpark, every industry is different. Like I said, every offer is different, but just keep an eye on your conversion rate. And then obviously the cost per acquisition is another term that you'll hear me say a lot. It's similar to conversion rate, but here it's the cost to just get one conversion. So you take your cost per click and you divide it by your conversion rate to get your cost per acquisition. And then here for anybody who has especially e-commerce, where you can actually track the exact return that you're getting. So it's the value of all the conversions divided by the total amount that was spent on those conversions. So even if you're not e-commerce, you can go in there and enter how much a conversion is worth to your business. Now, sometimes businesses are like, gosh, I don't really know how much, a conversion or a lead or whatever is worth to my business. But that's really something that I'm going to spend a lot of time with you guys working through in this course. I want you guys to know your numbers. You need to understand the value of a conversion to your business because we want to be able to calculate this return on ad spend for any of you guys out there that are non-e-commerce. Obviously, if it's e-commerce, it's very easy, right? We hook it up to Google Analytics, and I'll show you guys how to do this, and you can pull in the exact amount that's being spent on the purchase, the average order value and things like that. You can pull those numbers right back into Google AdWords and see your actual return on ad spend, like how much was spent in your online store versus how much you paid for those ads. And so, like I said, it's more straightforward when all of the transactions take place online. For all of you guys that have an offline business where the conversion or the actual someone becomes a customer offline, it's not as easy to track that right in the platform. So because of that, you need to really know your numbers and understand the value by working through a bunch of math. And I actually have a really awesome spreadsheet calculator for you guys that I'll walk through with you and show you how to really start to deep dive into your own numbers and start to figure out how to calculate these types of numbers that you need to plug into the platform so that it can tell you in the reports what average return you're getting for your ad spend.